Hi, I'm Greg Dell, joined by attorney Cesar Gavidia and Alexander Palomara, and we're going to discuss Lincoln Financial long-term disability denials, and then we're going to talk also about remedies like we have in other videos dealing with appeals and dealing with lawsuits. But Cesar, I want to get in with you. When people call you, what's the first most common reason you think of for a denial from Lincoln Financial?
Well, usually there's been some sort of activity going on in the claim. So for some time, the person will tell me, well, they were requesting these new forms I hadn't seen before, or they'd asked for some documentation from my doctors that they hadn't received, and they contacted me about it, or they reached out to my doctors. My doctor's office called me. So there's some sort of kind of difference in their behavior than what maybe they've been used to over some time. This is, of course, if they've been approved and they've been on claim. So it's something, unusual. Another one of those kind of unusual things is when they change the claims examiner, and they say, well, I've had this claims examiner for the, last 12 months, and then suddenly this new person's been assigned and she's asking me all these questions, or they're calling me, they want to know all these things or completing new forms I've never seen before. So there's usually something leading up to it that has been different from what's been going on for some period of time.
And Alex, a lot of calls I get is because people go, my definition of disability's changed. Can you talk about what that means in a Lincoln Financial policy and why I always see that as a top one or two reason for denial?
For sure. If you've been approved for benefits, and this actually goes even beyond, like in most group disability insurance carriers, their policies will have a definition of disability that changes typically at the 2-year mark. So in order to get benefits for the first 2 years, a little bit easier. You have to prove that you can't do your own occupation. And after the 2-year mark, it gets a little bit more difficult to qualify, because then under most of these group disability insurance policies, especially Lincoln, now you have to prove they're unable to do the material and substantial duties of any occupation. Typically it's any gainful occupation. It's not the old Walmart greeter occupation. Typically there's an earnings capacity. Typically it's 60% of your prior income. So they can't just say you could be a Walmart greeter, but it kind of opens up the door, because if you can't do your own occupation, maybe your own occupation was a medium level occupation where you had to lift 50 pounds every single day. Well, any occupation is typically a sedentary job. So it opens up the door a lot more to the insurance company say, hey, we don't think you can do your job as a nurse or your job as a truck driver, but we think you can do a sedentary job where you sit all day in front of a keyboard and computer. Thus, we no longer think you're disabled. And the highest reason that I see for whether it's denied from the get-go or at the change in definition of disability, they're going to say is a lack of proof, a lack of medical evidence that supports the contention that you remain disabled under the policy.
And that's a great segue for Cesar. Why is it so important to have strong medical support? And what tip would you give to someone to help avoid a denial so that they have strong medical support?
Well, your claim is only as strong as your foundation. Same with the building. It's only as strong as the foundation it's built on. And if you don't have strong medical support, in the sense that your doctors are documenting your complaints, you're seeing your doctors frequently. And some people say, well, my doctor doesn't want to see me but once every year and a half or 2 years or as needed. And, as of course, someone may be relieved to hear that, because, it's certainly, they don't have to pay for as many doctor's visits, or, there's not that sense of urgency of having to be at the doctor all the time. It's kind of precarious, because now there's potentially a very long period of time that's gone by that your doctor hasn't seen you. There's no documentation going on. None of your complaints are being documented within your medical file, within the records. And that really opens things up for the insurance company to request the records that your doctors have for you, review them. And they usually have them reviewed by their own physicians who say, hey, there's nothing here. There's a complete lack of support here. There's nothing really supporting that they have these complaints, that they have these problems, that they have anything that would continue to prevent them from either going back to their occupation or, like Alex said, going to a gainful occupation. So you really have to have that strong foundation. So seeing your doctor frequently, going in every 2 to 3 months, and it's not a time to go in and the doctor asks you, hey, Greg, how you feeling? I'm okay. That's the worst thing you could say if you're symptomatic, if you're in pain, if you're having all these things going on.
When you talk about that, it's all relative though, because if you're someone who's suffering, and we talk about this pain scale from like a 1 to 10, where 10 is the worst, 1 is I'm okay. when someone, and most of our clients who are suffering with their disabilities, they're usually feeling like an 8 or 9, maybe a 7, which is terrible when you're supposed to be at a 0. But when they go to the doctor that day, they might be on meds. They may not have been doing any activities for the last 2 or 3 days. They're certainly not doing the day in, day out duties of what they were doing at work. And now they go to the doctor and they report, like you just said, how are you doing? I'm doing okay. Well, I'm not working. I haven't done anything in 2 days. I'm on my meds. And my okay is what? Right. A 5 versus a 10? The problem is, Caesar, you know how that equates to the disability insurance company, which is what you're saying. In the records, it says patient comes in and reports he's okay. Well, he's okay compared to being in debilitating pain, can't get out of bed, can't focus, can't think about anything. No way you could show up for work. So
Sure.
what you're saying is you can't go in, we always say, you can't go in there and be Superman. And you got to think about what you're saying, because the only thing the disability insurance company is going to look at is what's in those records. And Alex, how do they get away with, when we say they only look at the records, how do they get away with most of the time when it comes to Lincoln, denying a claim based upon just a review of the records, often by just their nurse or their in-house doctors?
How do they get away with that? Well, the case law and the ERISA laws really do protect the insurance company. Now, ERISA stands for the Employee Retirement Income Security Act. One of my clients famously came up with the acronym, the Employee Really Is Screwed Act, because it really does protect the insurance companies. It does. They're allowed to have they do a bad job of it. They could do a better job of denying some of these cases, but for the most part, I do see them relying upon nurse reviews and in-house doctor reviews. They call them medical directors that are in-house doctors that work for Lincoln. How biased could they be? Pretty darn biased, because if they rule in favor of a denial of benefits, it's saving the company that pays them thousands of dollars as their paycheck, right, saves them thousands of dollars. So it covers their costs right there. So they're going to be more inclined to support the goal or the contention of the insurance company to save thousands of dollars per month. Add that up by 100 claimants per month, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars per month or more. So what they should do, what they do sometimes, is they rely upon independent physician consultant reports, where they go out to these different companies like MES, and they have quote-unquote independent consultants who they have no direct ties to the insurance company. Of course, Lincoln's still paying for that review, and more often than not, these reviews are also pretty biased in my opinion. But they try to insulate themselves a little bit by having a quote-unquote independent outside doctor perform a review. Sometimes they'll send our clients to functional capacity evaluations or independent medical examinations, but I see that less and less over the last couple of years, especially since COVID. Even before COVID, I can't remember the last time an insurance company or Lincoln even sent one of my clients to an FCE. Maybe an independent medical examination, but maybe 1 in 50 cases. It rarely happens. They're relying upon these consultant reports and the in-house reports. Now the key is, to go back to what you're describing or what you were stating earlier, when you go see your doctor, you have to be as descriptive as possible. There's just and you have to make sure that your doctor is transcribing everything that you're telling him or her, because it's right. So your medical records is everything that you possibly have in your case. With no support from your medical records, it's going to be very difficult to win your claim or get you back on claim with an appeal.
It just always disturbs me that 9 out of 10 times I'll see a Lincoln financial denial, and it basically says, our nurse or our medical clinician looked at your records and decided to deny your claim. And the claimants go, wait, I've treated with my doctor 30 times. I've seen 2 or 3 medical specialists. They didn't even bother to call me. They don't even look at me. I mean, they're saying my objective evidence doesn't support my subjective complaints. Well, then come out and look at me. Come talk to me. See if I'm the person that you think you would hire. And even look at it this way, I say, would you hire me to come do your job as that claim rep? Do you think I'm that person who can do it based upon what you see? If you do, great, and give me a job. Right. Let me come.
Yeah, and by the way, they shouldn't feel relieved if they do say, we want to come out and see you, or we want you to go to this examination or this FCE, because, while you may say, say, okay, well, they're not just denying my claim, they're not just doing this medical review and denying it. In many cases, what they're doing is trying to build up the basis or support for them to take the next step of denying the claim.
And you're thinking too smart, like a very skilled lawyer. And yes, if they did send out all of our claimants and had all of these other people, they could still potentially get a biased response. But you know what? I would rather take that, because I believe there'd be a lot less denials if real doctors were looking at real people. This 9 out of 10 denials would probably be 2 out of 10. And the disability insurance companies will never do that because they don't want more people approved. So that's the reality. But what you talked about gets into our other videos where we talk about appeals and we talk about we talk about lawsuits and what the remedies are, and we encourage people to watch our other videos. So if you're someone out there who has a Lincoln Financial denial, no matter where you live in the country, feel free to reach out to Alex, myself, or Caesar, and we're always available to assist you.